In the vast expanse of the universe, where stars twinkled like diamonds against the backdrop of the night, there existed a small green alien colony on Mars known as Zellara. This was no ordinary colony. It was a place where technology and nature intertwined harmoniously, and its inhabitants thrived under the guidance of their wise king. Among the colony's denizens was a curious young alien named Kale, the king's son. With his bright emerald skin and wide, inquisitive eyes, Kale was a dreamer who often gazed at the blue planet that shone brilliantly in the night sky Earth. From an early age, Kale had been captivated by tales of Earth and its inhabitants, woven into the stories told by his elders. He would sit by the communal fire, enraptured, as the older aliens described the humans' emotions, love, joy, and even sadness. Kale longed to understand these feelings, to experience them for himself. With each story, his desire to visit Earth grew stronger, and he became determined to uncover the mysteries that lay beyond the stars. One fateful evening, Kale sat atop a rocky outcrop, staring up at the vast cosmos. The full moon illuminated the Martian landscape, casting an ethereal glow over the colony. His heart raced as he envisioned the wonders of Earth, the lush forests, sprawling oceans, and vibrant cities filled with bustling humans. He knew that if he could just set foot on that distant planet, he could truly understand the depth of their existence. The mere thought filled him with an exhilarating sense of adventure. But as the son of the king, such a journey would not be easy. Kale understood the risks involved. Earth was a foreign world, filled with unknown dangers. Nevertheless, he felt a powerful urge to embark on this journey, to break free from the confines of his royal duties and discover the world that lay beyond. That night, driven by his yearning, Kale approached his father, King Rinner, in the grand hall of their colony. The hall was adorned with shimmering crystals that reflected the light like stars, and the air was filled with the hum of energy from the colony's advanced technology. The king sat on his ornate throne, his regal presence commanding respect. Kale took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his request settle upon him. "Father," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I wish to travel to Earth. I want to meet the humans and learn about their lives." King Rinner raised an eyebrow, concern etched on his face. "Kale, you know the dangers that come with such a journey. Earth is a world filled with uncertainties. What if they do not accept you? What if you encounter peril?" Kale nodded, acknowledging his father's concerns. "I understand the risks, but I cannot ignore this desire. I believe there is so much I can learn. I want to experience their emotions, to understand their hearts." The king regarded his son, his heart swelling with pride and worry. After a long pause, he sighed. "Very well, my son. If you feel this strongly, I will help you. But you must promise to be cautious and to return home safely." Kale's heart soared with joy. "I promise, father." "Thank you." With newfound determination, he set to work preparing for his journey. The king provided him with a special vehicle designed for interplanetary travel, a sleek craft that shimmered under the Martian sun. It was equipped with cloaking technology to hide him from the prying eyes of Earth's inhabitants. As the day of departure approached, Kel's excitement grew. He meticulously packed supplies, including a device that could translate languages and a holographic map. However, he knew that to truly blend in, he would need to disguise himself as a human. With the assistance of the colony's finest scientists, he crafted a special suit that would alter his appearance, allowing him to blend seamlessly into human society. The morning of his departure arrived, and the colony gathered to bid him farewell. The air buzzed with energy as Kale stood before his fellow aliens, his heart pounding with anticipation. He took a moment to address the crowd. "Thank you all for your support. I promise to learn all that I can and to return with stories of my adventures." With that, Kale boarded the vehicle and activated the engines. The craft hummed to life, lifting off the Martian surface and soaring into the sky. As he broke through the atmosphere, the vastness of space enveloped him, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of freedom wash over him. The journey to Earth was swift, the vehicle gliding effortlessly through the stars. Kale marveled at the view, the swirling colors of the cosmos contrasting beautifully with the black void. After what felt like a fleeting moment, Earth came into view, a vibrant blue orb swirling with white clouds. His heart raced with excitement and trepidation as he descended toward the planet's surface. Landing in a secluded area outside a bustling city, Kale took a moment to collect himself. He gazed at his reflection in the polished surface of the vehicle, adjusting his disguise. The suit had worked perfectly. He appeared as a tall, human male with tousled dark hair and striking green eyes, though no one could know they were not entirely human. He stepped out of the craft, the grass beneath his feet feeling strangely comforting. The sounds of the city reached him, a cacophony of laughter, music, and chatter. He inhaled deeply, filling his lungs with the fresh, earthy air. For the first time, he felt a mixture of exhilaration and nervousness. Kale knew he had to navigate this world carefully. As he ventured into the city, he was captivated by the vibrant life surrounding him. Humans hurried by, engaged in animated conversations, their faces lighting up with emotion. Kale observed them, his heart racing at the prospect of engaging with these fascinating beings. He marveled at the simple joys they displayed, a child laughing, a couple holding hands, friends sharing stories over coffee. Yet, amidst the wonders, Kale also noticed the darker side of humanity. He witnessed arguments, signs of distress, and moments of loneliness. It was a reminder that human emotions were complex, intertwined with joy and sorrow. Kale felt an overwhelming urge to understand this duality, to experience it for himself. Days turned into weeks as Kale immersed himself in human culture. He learned their customs, languages, and most importantly, he attended parties, mingled in cafes, and even ventured into art galleries, where he marveled at the expressions captured on canvas. He felt a sense of belonging as he forged connections with the people around him, his heart swelling with joy each time he made a new friend. But it was during a rainy afternoon in a park that everything changed. Kale had been watching a group of children playing, their laughter echoing through the air. Suddenly, he spotted a woman sitting alone on a bench, her eyes glistening with tears. Intrigued, he approached her, his heart aching to know her story. "Why are you sad?" he asked gently, his voice laced with genuine concern. She looked up, startled. Her features were soft and delicate, framed by dark, cascading hair. I'm just feeling a bit lost," she confessed, her voice trembling. "Sometimes it feels like no one understands me." Kel's heart skipped a beat. Here was an opportunity to connect with someone on a deeper level. He sat beside her, listening intently as she shared her struggles, the pressures of life, the weight of expectations, and the loneliness that sometimes enveloped her. He felt a profound connection, as if he had known her for a lifetime. As days turned into weeks, their friendship blossomed into something beautiful. Kale found himself drawn to her spirit, her kindness, and the way her laughter lit up even the darkest of days. They explored the city together, shared stories, and slowly, Kale realized he was falling in love. However, the blissful moments were marred by an impending sense of fear. Kale knew he couldn't hide his true identity forever. What would happen when she discovered he was not human? The thought tormented him, yet he couldn't bring himself to tell her. He was afraid of losing her. One fateful evening, they were having dinner in a cozy little restaurant. The atmosphere was warm, with soft music playing in the background. Kale watched her animatedly talk about her dreams, her eyes sparkling with passion. In that moment, he felt a surge of emotions: joy, love, but also anxiety. As they finished their meal, Kale felt compelled to take a leap of faith. "I need to tell you something important," he said, his voice steady yet trembling with fear. Before he could reveal his true identity, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, startling them both. The waiter rushed out, panic etched on his face. "We need to evacuate. There's a gas leak." Chaos ensued as customers scrambled to exit the restaurant. Kale instinctively grabbed the woman's hand, guiding her through the crowd. In the rush, she caught a glimpse of his true reflection in a polished surface, a flicker of green skin and luminous eyes before he could hide them. Her expression shifted from confusion to terror. "What are you?" she gasped, taking a step back, fear written across her features. Before he could respond, the restaurant's security arrived, and Kale was swiftly apprehended, dragged away from the scene as the woman's horrified gaze followed him. The authorities had been called, and he was taken to a facility for examination. As he was led away, his heart sank. Everything he had come to love was slipping through his fingers, and he was left in a state of despair, wondering if he would ever see her again. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of a journey filled with unexpected turns and fateful encounters. The sterile walls of the examination facility felt cold and unwelcoming to Kale as he sat restrained in a small, dimly lit room. Panic surged within him. He recalled the fear etched on the woman's face the moment she saw his true form. He had spent weeks trying to fit into her world, to understand the intricacies of human emotions, only to be stripped of that connection in an instant. The room was filled with the soft hum of machines and the distant sounds of voices echoing in the hallways. Kale couldn't comprehend why he had allowed himself to become so vulnerable. He had felt so right to share moments of joy and laughter with the woman he had come to care for deeply. Yet here he was, alone and imprisoned, facing the consequences of his deception. As he waited, his mind raced with thoughts of her. What was her name? He had heard her say it in passing during their time together, but the sheer volume of emotions had drowned it out. He could only remember the warmth of her smile and the sparkle in her eyes when she talked about her dreams. He longed to see that smile again, to tell her the truth about who he was, and to apologize for the fear he had caused. Suddenly, the door creaked open and two officers entered the room. One was a stern-looking man with sharp features, while the other was a woman with kind eyes. They both carried a clipboard, glancing at him with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "State your name and purpose for being on Earth," the man demanded, his voice authoritative. Kel's heart raced. He knew the truth would only complicate matters, but he could not lie. "I am Kale, a visitor from Mars. I came to learn about your planet and its inhabitants," he said, his voice steady but filled with apprehension. The woman raised an eyebrow. "A visitor from Mars? That's quite a claim. Do you have any proof of your origins?" Kale felt a surge of frustration. How could he provide proof of a world they would never believe existed? "I don't have physical proof, but I assure you, my intentions are not hostile. I wanted to experience human emotions and understand your ways. I never meant to frighten anyone." The man scoffed, clearly unconvinced. "You expect us to believe that? You're an alien in disguise and you've already caused enough trouble. We need to report this." Kel's heart sank as he realized they would not see him as a curious traveler, but as a threat. He was about to protest when a voice broke through the tension in the room. Wait, a figure stepped into the doorway, and Kel's heart leapt at the sight of her. It was the woman, the one who had captivated him from the very beginning. Her hair was slightly disheveled, and her eyes were filled with determination as she approached the officers. "Let him go," she exclaimed, her voice firm. "He's not dangerous. I know him." The officers exchanged skeptical glances, clearly taken aback by her sudden appearance. "You know this alien?" the woman officer asked, incredulous. "Yes. His name is Kale, and he's not here to harm anyone. He's just curious about Earth and its people," she explained, stepping closer to Kale, her presence offering him a sense of hope. Kel's heart swelled with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The stern officer shook his head, clearly unimpressed. "And how do we know he's telling the truth? You could be under some sort of influence, or he could have brainwashed you." "No," she protested, her eyes flashing with conviction. "He's not like that. You have to believe me. I can vouch for him." After a tense pause, the man sighed, crossing his arms. "Fine, we'll give you a few minutes to speak with him, but don't think this changes anything." We'll need to investigate further. With that, the officers stepped back, allowing the woman to approach Kale. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the world outside faded away. Kale, she said softly, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry for what happened. I didn't mean to panic. I was just shocked. Kale shook his head, his heart aching for her. It's not your fault. I should have told you the truth. I was afraid of losing you. She looked down, guilt washing over her face. But I'm the one who got you caught. I didn't understand, none of us did. You were just trying to connect, and I reacted without thinking. It's okay, Kale reassured her, longing to bridge the gap that had formed between them. I wanted to experience what it's like to be human, to feel everything you feel. I never wanted to deceive you. Her eyes widened, and she reached out, gently touching his arm. You didn't deceive me. You opened up to me, and I appreciate that more than you know. But what now? What will happen to you? Kel's heart sank as he contemplated his fate. I don't know. They may send me back to Mars or keep me here for experimentation. All I know is that I don't want to lose this connection with you. You've shown me a world I never thought possible. She took a deep breath, her eyes sparkling with determination. I won't let them take you away. I'll fight for you, Kale. I believe in you. Kale felt a surge of hope as he realized the depth of her resolve. You don't have to do that. It could be dangerous for you. I don't care, she replied fiercely, her voice unwavering. I've seen the good in you. You deserve a chance to prove that you're not a threat. Just then, the officers re-entered the room, their expressions serious. Time's up, the man said, his tone flat. We need to take him for further questioning. Wait, the woman shouted, stepping between Kale and the officers. You can't just take him like this. He hasn't done anything wrong. The stern officer raised an eyebrow. And how do you know that? This is a matter of national security. Kale could see the tension building, and he knew he had to intervene. Please, if you let me explain my intentions, I can show you I'm not a threat. I came to learn, not to harm. The officers exchanged glances, and after a moment of hesitation, the woman officer spoke. We'll give you one chance, but if you can't prove your innocence, there will be consequences. Kale nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination. He had to find a way to convey his true intentions, to show them that he was not the enemy. As he began to speak, he poured his heart into every word, recounting his journey from Mars, his longing to understand Earth's emotions, and his desire to connect with humanity. Let me show you, Kale urged, his voice filled with passion. I can demonstrate what I've learned. I want to help you understand my world, just as I've tried to understand yours. The officers remained skeptical, but the woman's eyes glinted with hope. Let him try. If he truly means no harm, then we should give him a chance. After a tense deliberation, the officers reluctantly escorted Kale and the woman to a larger room filled with advanced technology screens displaying data and machines whirring softly. As Kale stepped inside, he felt a surge of determination. He had to prove that he was more than just an alien. He was a bridge between two worlds. Okay, Kale, the woman said, her voice steady. Show them what you can do. Kale took a deep breath, focusing on the knowledge he had gained during his time on Earth. He remembered the emotions he had witnessed, the joy, the laughter, the pain, and the love. Drawing upon those experiences, he began to share stories of human connections, illustrating how emotions could unite individuals across cultures and species. He spoke of the importance of empathy, explaining how understanding one another could break down barriers. He shared moments of laughter he had experienced with the woman, the beauty of human connection, and the warmth of friendship. As he spoke, he noticed the officers' expressions beginning to soften, curiosity replacing suspicion. The woman stood by his side, nodding in agreement as she added her own thoughts. He's right. There's so much we can learn from each other. I never thought I'd be able to connect with someone from another planet, but here we are. As Kale continued to weave his narrative, he felt a shift in the atmosphere. The officers exchanged glances, their skepticism fading as they listened intently. Kale could sense that he was breaking through their defenses, opening their hearts to the possibility of understanding. After what felt like hours, Kale concluded his story, his heart racing with anticipation. I just want to learn, to experience the beauty of your world. I don't want to hurt anyone, I only want to connect. There was a moment of silence as the officers absorbed his words. Finally, the woman officer spoke, her tone more compassionate than before. You've given us a lot to think about, Kale. But understand, this doesn't mean you're off the hook. We still need to investigate your claims. I understand, Kale replied, relief flooding through him. I just hope to prove that I'm not a threat. As the officers began to exit, the woman turned to Kale, a small smile breaking through her anxious expression. You did it, Kale. You reached them. Kale felt a warmth in his chest as he returned her smile. I couldn't have done it without you. Your belief in me means everything, but the joy of the moment was overshadowed by the reality that lay ahead. The officers would still investigate his origins, and there was no guarantee that they would believe him or allow him to remain on Earth. As they exited the room, Kale turned to the woman, searching for answers in her eyes. What will happen to me now? I don't know, she admitted, her brow furrowed in concern. But I promise I'll do everything I can to help you. You deserve a chance. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Kale realized the depth of his feelings for her. She had risked everything for him, and he wanted to protect her in return. You've already given me a chance, he said softly, and I'll never forget it. As they were escorted back to the main area, Kale felt a surge of hope. He had faced his fears and opened up about his true self. With the woman by his side, he believed that together they could bridge the gap between their worlds, proving that love and understanding could conquer even the greatest of divides. But little did they know, the journey ahead would be filled with unforeseen challenges and consequences that neither of them could anticipate. The days passed in a blur for Kale, locked in the sterile room of the examination facility. Each tick of the clock echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of his isolation. He replayed the events that had brought him here, his arrival on Earth, the moments of joy spent with her, and the crushing realization that his true form had shattered the bond they had forged. The uncertainty of his fate weighed heavily on him, but nothing pained him more than the thought of the woman he had come to love, now burdened with guilt and worrying. Meanwhile, the woman, whose name he had finally learned was Leela, found herself in a tumult of emotions. Guilt gnawed at her insides for exposing Kale, yet a fierce determination burned within her to make things right. She had felt a connection with him that was deeper than anything she had ever experienced, and the thought of losing him haunted her every moment. Leela spent her days pacing her small apartment, contemplating the events that had unfolded. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts as she struggled to come to terms with what had happened. She had seen Kale for who he truly was, a being filled with curiosity, kindness, and a desire to connect. How could she have reacted with fear instead of understanding? It seemed so out of character for her, and the weight of her decision pressed heavily on her conscience. On the third day of Kale's confinement, Leela decided that enough was enough. She couldn't just stand by while the man who had touched her heart was locked away. She had to take action, to fight for him, and to prove his innocence. The very thought of Kale being subjected to experiments, or worse, filled her with a sense of urgency. That evening, after a restless day spent lost in thought, Leela resolved to visit the examination facility once more. She dressed in a simple outfit, hoping to appear inconspicuous as she approached the imposing building. With each step, her heart raced. What if they refused her entry again? What if she couldn't get through to them? As she arrived, the facility loomed before her, sterile and intimidating. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of the bond she had formed with Kale. She couldn't let fear dictate her actions. After all, Kale had shown her that there was more to the world than what met the eye. Walking through the front doors, Leela approached the receptionist, a middle-aged woman who looked up from her screen with a bored expression. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked, unimpressed. "I need to see Kale," Leela replied, her voice steady despite the nerves bubbling beneath the surface. "I'm his friend and I want to help him." The receptionist raised an eyebrow, her interest piqued slightly. "You're not allowed in. He's being held for questioning. You can't just waltz in here." "I understand that, but I can't just sit back and let them keep him without knowing what's going on," Leela insisted, her determination shining through. "Please, I need to talk to someone in charge." After a moment of hesitation, the receptionist picked up the phone. "I'll see if anyone can meet with you." Leela waited anxiously as she paced back and forth, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her. Would they listen to her? Would they care about the truth she had witnessed in Kale? A few minutes later, a tall man in a suit approached her, his expression serious. "I'm Agent Carter," he introduced himself, extending a hand. "What's this about?" "Thank you for meeting with me, Agent Carter," Leela said, shaking his hand firmly. "I need to talk about Kale. He's not a threat, he's just a curious being who wants to learn about humanity." Agent Carter regarded her with a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "And how do you know this?" "I've spent time with him," she explained, her voice filled with conviction. "He's shown me a kindness that I've never experienced before. He wants to understand emotions, not exploit them." "And what if he's lying?" he challenged. "He could be manipulating you, using your feelings against you." Leela shook her head, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "No! He's not like that. He's genuine. I've seen how he interacts with the world around him. He's curious, open-hearted, and caring. I can't let him be treated like a lab rat." Agent Carter studied her for a moment, contemplating her words. "You're very passionate about this, but emotions can cloud judgment, especially when it comes to something as serious as this." "I understand that," Leela replied, her voice softening. "But Kale is not a danger to anyone. He deserves a chance to prove himself, just as we all do. I'm willing to help in any way I can." Agent Carter sighed, conflicted. "I can't make any promises. We need to investigate his claims further, but I'll allow you a brief meeting with him under supervision. However, understand that he's still a potential risk." Leela nodded, her heart racing with hope. "Thank you. That's all I ask." As they made their way to the holding area, Leela's mind raced with possibilities. She envisioned the conversation she would have with Kale, the way she would explain her determination to fight for him. She had to reassure him that he wasn't alone. When they arrived, she was led into a small room with a table and 2 chairs. Kale was seated on the other side, his expression a mix of relief and concern as he saw her enter. "Leela," he exclaimed, standing up. "I was so worried about you." "I'm okay," she reassured him, though her heart ached at the sight of him confined. "I came to help you." Kale looked at her, gratitude and uncertainty in his eyes. "You shouldn't have come here. It's dangerous for you." "I don't care about the danger," Leela replied, her voice steady. "I care about you, and I can't just let them keep you here without a fight." Kale's heart swelled at her words, but he also felt a pang of guilt. "You shouldn't have to fight for me. I brought this upon myself." No, Kale, she insisted, her eyes shining with determination. You didn't do anything wrong. You were just trying to connect to understand. That's not a crime. As they spoke, the tension in the room began to ease, and Kale felt a glimmer of hope. I never wanted to cause you pain. When I revealed my true form, I thought I had lost you forever. Leela reached across the table, her fingers brushing against his. You haven't lost me. I want to prove to them that you're not a threat. I'll do whatever it takes. Kale looked into her eyes, feeling the depth of her commitment. You don't know what you're getting into. This could put you in danger. Then let it put me in danger, she said fiercely. I won't stand by while you suffer. We'll figure this out together. In that moment, Kale felt a surge of admiration for her bravery. She was willing to face the unknown for him, and it reminded him of the very essence of humanity he had come to appreciate. Thank you, Leela. You've shown me what it means to care for someone. As their hands touched, a sense of warmth enveloped them, and for a brief moment, the weight of the world seemed to fade away. But they both knew that the reality of their situation loomed large. Agent Carter, observing from the doorway, cleared his throat, breaking the spell. I hate to interrupt, but we have a situation to address. I'll need to take you both to a larger briefing room where we can discuss the next steps. Leela reluctantly pulled her hand back, her heart heavy with the knowledge that their time together was limited. Okay, she said, her voice steady. Let's figure this out. As they were escorted to the briefing room, Leela's mind raced with strategies. She knew that proving Kel's innocence would require more than just her words. They needed tangible evidence of his character and intentions. Inside the larger room, several agents were seated around a long table, their expression serious as they reviewed documents on their laptops. Agent Carter gestured for Leela and Kale to take a seat. Thank you for your patience, Agent Carter began. We've been gathering information regarding your claims, Kale. But before we proceed, I need to understand the extent of your knowledge about Earth and its inhabitants. Kale took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the room's scrutiny. I've observed your culture and emotions. I wanted to understand the complexities of human relationships and how they form connections. An agent interrupted, skepticism evident in his tone. And how can we be sure this isn't a ruse? What if you have ulterior motives? Leela felt anger bubble within her. He's not a threat. He's just trying to learn. What more do you want from him? Agent Carter held up a hand to quiet her, then turned back to Kale. We need you to demonstrate your abilities, Kale. Show us that you can be trusted. Kale nodded, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. What do you need me to do? We'll set up a series of tests, Agent Carter explained. If you pass them, we'll consider granting you a chance to stay on Earth. Leela's heart raced with both excitement and fear. This was their opportunity, but the stakes were higher than ever. She squeezed Kel's hand, silently offering her support. As they discussed the logistics of the tests, Leela's mind whirred with possibilities. She would stand by Kale, helping him navigate the complexities of the human world while showcasing his true nature. Together, they would fight against the fears and prejudices that had initially driven them apart. When the meeting concluded, Leela and Kale found themselves alone in a small waiting area. You'll do great, she encouraged him, her voice steady. Just be yourself. Kale smiled, but uncertainty lingered in his eyes. I hope they can see me for who I truly am. They will, Leela replied, her confidence unwavering. You've shown me that love and understanding can break through even the thickest walls. We'll find a way. As they prepared for the tests ahead, Leela felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would fight for Kale, for their connection, and for the possibility of a future where love transcended the boundaries of their worlds. Little did they know that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, and their journey together would be tested in ways they couldn't yet fathom. But Leela was ready to face whatever came next, determined to prove that their bond was worth fighting for. The days of rigorous testing that followed were exhausting, yet strangely exhilarating for Kale and Leela. They had forged an unbreakable bond through the process, united in their mission to prove that love transcended the boundaries of their worlds. With each passing test, Kale demonstrated his intellect, empathy, and ability to adapt to human emotions. The agents, initially skeptical, began to see glimpses of the gentle soul that lay beneath his alien exterior. Leela remained by his side, providing support and encouragement, and slowly but surely, she was gaining the trust of the agents overseeing Kel's evaluations. She fought fiercely for him, often stepping up to defend him during the questioning sessions. Kale was more than just a test subject. He was a living testament to the potential for connection across different worlds. After weeks of tests, discussions, and late-night strategy sessions, Agent Carter finally called them into his office for a meeting that could change everything. As Leela and Kale entered, she could feel the weight of anticipation hanging in the air. "Thank you for coming in," Agent Carter began, glancing between them with a mixture of seriousness and intrigue. "We've reviewed your performance over the past weeks. You've managed to impress us with your understanding of human emotions, Kale, and your ability to adapt." Leela held her breath, her heart racing. This was the moment they had worked so hard for. However, Carter continued, "There are still concerns about your presence on Earth. We have to consider the implications of interspecies relationships. It's unprecedented, and the potential for complications is significant." Kel's heart sank at the mention of complications, but Leela squeezed his hand reassuringly, grounding him in the moment. "Therefore," Agent Carter went on, "we will allow you to remain on Earth under strict conditions. You'll be monitored, and your actions will be closely scrutinized. Additionally, you must commit to a program designed to help you integrate into society." Relief washed over Leela, but she could see the hesitation in Kel's expression. "What does that mean for us?" he asked, his voice steady yet tinged with uncertainty. Carter looked at them both, weighing his words. "It means you will be allowed to live among humans, but you'll need to be cautious. Your relationship with Leela will be closely observed. There are risks involved, and we want to ensure that both of you are safe." Leela nodded, determination flooding through her. "We'll do whatever it takes. I want to be with Kale, and we'll prove that our love is worth it." Kale turned to Leela, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You've always believed in me, Leela. I don't want to be a burden to you." "You're not a burden, Kale," she replied firmly. "You're someone I care deeply about. We'll face this together." The following months were a whirlwind of activity as they navigated their new reality. Kale began to adapt to life on Earth, taking classes to learn more about human culture, history, and emotions. He embraced every experience with enthusiasm, often surprising Leela with his insightful observations and the depth of his understanding. As they spent more time together, their bond deepened. They shared laughter, moments of vulnerability, and dreams for the future. Kale introduced Leela to the wonders of his home planet through vivid descriptions, painting a picture of a world filled with vibrant colors and unfamiliar landscapes. Leela, in turn, shared the beauty of Earth, the sunsets, the ocean, the taste of fresh strawberries, each moment bringing them closer. But with their growing connection came challenges. The constant scrutiny of the agents weighed on them. They felt like they were living under a microscope, every interaction observed and analyzed. There were moments of doubt when Kale would pull back, fearing that he was a danger to Leela's world. "Maybe I shouldn't be here," he confessed one evening, sitting across from her on a bench in a nearby park. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue across the horizon. "What if I bring harm instead of understanding?" Leela reached out, placing her hand on his. "Kale, you're not a danger. You've shown nothing but kindness. Don't let fear dictate your worth. We're building something beautiful together, and that matters." His eyes softened as he took in her words. "I want to believe that. I want to be the being you see in me." As their relationship flourished, they began to discuss the possibility of taking it a step further. The idea of marriage blossomed in their conversations, but it also brought forth concerns about the future and the implications of their union. What would it mean for their worlds? Would they be able to raise children in a society that might not accept them? Can you imagine what it would be like? Kale mused one evening, gazing at the stars. A family that spans two worlds. Leela smiled, envisioning a life where they could blend their cultures, where their children could learn to appreciate both their human and alien heritages. It could be beautiful, but we must be prepared for the challenges that come with it. I want to create a life with you, Leela, Kale admitted, his voice earnest. But I also don't want to put you in danger. The agency still views me as a potential threat. Just then, an ominous cloud seemed to loom over their happiness. They had both felt the pressure from the agency building in the background, the whispers of doubt creeping into their conversations. A week later, their fears materialized. Kale received an urgent call from Agent Carter, requesting an immediate meeting. The weight of impending change hung heavily in the air as Leela accompanied him, her heart pounding in anticipation. Inside Carter's office, the atmosphere felt tense. The agent was flanked by two other officials, their expressions grim. Kale, we've received alarming reports about the children of interspecies relationships. We fear that they may pose a danger, and we need to assess the situation further. Kale's stomach churned. What do you mean by danger? Reports from our field agents indicate that there have been incidents involving children born from mixed species exhibiting unpredictable powers. One of the officials explained, "We're concerned about the potential for these powers to be destructive, particularly with your abilities." Leela felt a chill run down her spine. Are you saying we can't have children? Carter nodded slowly. We cannot allow it without further investigation. Your relationship will be monitored, and any signs of reproduction will trigger immediate action. Kel's heart sank as he processed the implications of the agent's words. You're putting limits on our love? It's for the safety of both worlds, Carter replied firmly. Until we understand the consequences of your union, we must take precautions. Leela felt tears prick her eyes as the weight of their situation became unbearable. But love is worth the risk. You can't separate us based on fear. Carter's expression softened, but he remained resolute. I understand your feelings, but we must consider the broader implications. We don't have enough data on the potential consequences of interspecies relationships. Kale clenched his fists, frustration bubbling to the surface. You're treating me like a science experiment. My feelings are a connection, it's more than just data. Leela placed a hand on his arm, grounding him. Kale, we'll find a way to prove that love can bridge the gap. We'll work together to show them that we can create a future without fear. In the weeks that followed, Leela and Kale threw themselves into their mission. They researched interspecies relationships, seeking out examples from history and science fiction that showcased the potential for coexistence. They gathered testimonials from those who had navigated similar paths, hoping to present their case to the agency. As they prepared their arguments, they faced backlash from both sides. Kel's fellow aliens questioned his loyalty to his kind, while Leela's friends and family expressed concern about the implications of their union. They felt the pressure mounting, but their bond only grew stronger. One evening, as they sat in their favorite park, surrounded by the beauty of nature, Leela took Kel's hand. No matter what happens, I want you to know that I love you. This fight is for us, but it's also for anyone who dares to love across boundaries. Kale gazed into her eyes, his heart swelling with love. You're my anchor, Leela. I never knew I could feel this way. Together, we can change minds. With renewed determination, they prepared for the final presentation to the agency, hoping to convince them to reconsider their stance on interspecies relationships. The night before the meeting, they stayed up late, going over their arguments, bolstered by their shared hope. The day of the presentation arrived, and Leela could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She stood beside Kale, feeling his warmth radiate through her as they faced the panel of agents. Agent Carter sat at the center, flanked by the others who had previously expressed skepticism. "We're here to hear your case," he stated, his tone serious. "But know that the stakes are high." Kale took a deep breath, glancing at Leela for reassurance. "We believe that love knows no boundaries. It's a force that can bring about change and understanding, not only for ourselves, but for the worlds we represent." Leela continued, her voice steady. "We've researched examples of successful interspecies relationships
There are
throughout
countless
history
stories
of individuals overcoming societal barriers to create families filled with love and acceptance. We want to be part of that legacy." The agents listened intently as Kale and Leela shared their research, emphasizing the importance of empathy, communication,
They highlighted
and
the
potential
potential
for collaboration between their worlds, showcasing the strengths that could emerge from their union. As they presented their case, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The agents began to nod, and the tension that had once filled the space seemed to dissipate. Agent Carter interjected, "You're making a compelling argument, but what do you propose regarding the concerns about potential offspring?" Kale took a step forward, his voice filled with conviction. "We propose a controlled environment. If we were to have children, we would be willing to work with the agency to ensure their well-being and to monitor any unusual abilities. We believe that, with proper guidance, we can nurture a generation that embodies the best of both worlds." Silence enveloped the room as the agents considered Kel's words. Leela felt a surge of hope as she glanced at the faces of those present, their expressions reflecting a shift in perspective. Finally, Agent Carter spoke again, his voice softer this time. "It's a monumental step you're proposing, and it's not one we can take lightly. However, we're willing to explore this further, under the condition that both of you remain transparent about your relationship and any developments moving forward." Kale and Leela exchanged glances, tears of relief filling their eyes. "Thank you," Leela breathed, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We won't let you down." As they left the agency's office, hand in hand, Leela felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The battle wasn't over, but they had taken a crucial step toward a future filled with possibility. In the weeks that followed, Kale and Leela worked tirelessly to build a foundation for their relationship, promoting understanding between their worlds. They spoke at events, sharing their story with those willing to listen, fostering connections, and breaking down barriers. Their love became a beacon of hope for others, inspiring interspecies relationships to flourish. And as they navigated the complexities of their lives, Leela and Kale knew that they had the power to change perceptions, one heart at a time. Together, they embraced the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their love, a love that would transcend the stars.